Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Mixed Callsheet. Very exciting. So today's guest is Harvey Quinn. Harvey is a Anglo-Burmese actor and writer working across film and TV. His recent projects have included The Witcher, The Kitchen, and he's appearing in season 3 of Industry later this year. He has his own podcast, the Lack of Focus podcast with Matt Bentley, which is hilarious. You should definitely check it out. And we had a great chat, so I hope you enjoy the episode. Quickly before we start, unfortunately on the day that we recorded, my mic was playing up. So I sound a bit fuzzy, unfortunately, but Harvey's mic sounds great. So I really hope it doesn't distract from the podcast, and just listen to Harvey. Enjoy. Harvey Quinn.
Adam El Hagar.
How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I'm nervous now, man. I'm nervous. We were just saying just before we went live that normally I have my own podcast, but I'm sort of playing a character when I'm on it. Whereas I feel it would be very reductive to do that here. So
I wouldn't want you to do that here. I don't want my podcast to be eviscerated. In the first episode.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Of course.
Thank you. The first thing I want to ask you is tell me about your mixed heritage.
Okay. I mean, look, let's get straight into it.
No.
And look, just before we start, I think this is a really good idea.
Thanks, man.
We've over the years talked about sort of our background so often. It's such a funny thing. It comes up so often, but at the same time, it feels like I think you said in your intro, sort of short episode, that sometimes you feel empowered by it and you feel like chameleonic, and sometimes you sort of push it to the side and you feel sort of like you don't fit in anywhere. And I feel that's sort of been my experience throughout my, I guess, entire life, and obviously within the industry. But yeah, sometimes I feel that it's a great positive, and I feel like really proud of my mixed heritage, and particularly on the Asian side, and then sometimes on my mum's side, less so on my mum's.
And just for the listeners, what is your heritage? What is your mixed heritage?
Yeah, so I'm my father is Burmese. He was born in Rangoon. My mother is English. So I guess the technical word is Anglo-Burmese.
Yeah.
I always used to say I was half Burmese before, but So I've had a sort of, I don't want to say a complicated relationship with it, but it's been up and down. It's been up and down, and I don't even really know right now. I'm not sure how I feel sort of about it. We can of course get into that, but yeah, my heritage is Burmese English.
Yeah, and what does identity mean to you? Day to day.
I don't know. I mean, day to day. I mean, day to day, I feel like a Londoner more than anything else, to be honest.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a Londoner before I'm an English person or a British person.
Yeah.
As it is separate, it does feel separate. I have, as I've got older, I feel more and more connection to the Asian side of things.
Yeah.
Particularly as my dad gets older, and within the past couple of years, I lost my last grandparent, who was on the Burmese side of things. So my nana, she passed away. She was deep into her 90s, bless her. But I feel more and more connection with the Asian side of things. But on a day to day, I feel like I'm a Londoner.
I grew up in Birmingham. My father's Egyptian, my mother's from Birmingham. So I was raised English. I would say I pass as white.
Me too.
But then there's this sort of funny thing, like when you step into the acting world, and people find out that you've got an ethnicity. It's like, oh well, grow your beard or get a tan, or you got to lean into that.
Sure.
And it puts you in this sort of weird place, because you feel like, hey, it's an asset, right? You feel like, you feel like, well, I've got something that someone else doesn't. But then but then you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, but I look like a white actor,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
exactly that. I
and
felt like a
yeah,
fraud many times, and I feel that I mean, I just even outside of acting, I feel like I was always told throughout my entire life when I was at school, when I was you know, just at, like in working jobs and stuff, you're white. And I remember when I
mm.
tell people, not like I actually I'm mixed race or whatever, I'd be like, no, you're white. Like, okay, okay, fair enough. I mean, which
Wow, really?
yeah, and at the time I was just like, yeah, okay, well, I present as white. I don't have the same experience as someone that is um obviously Burmese or obviously Asian or obviously a different ethnicity to Caucasian.
Mm.
And I just sort of to live my life very much like, okay, fine. I just gaslit myself as to like, oh no, I'm white,
Yeah,
despite the fact that I'd had a very, very sort of Asian upbringing, and my dad was an immigrant to the country.
yeah,
I was raised by my grandparents. Really, my parents worked on weekends, so
yeah,
every Saturday, my sister and I would be sent to my grandmothers and grandfathers, and they raised us every weekend for I guess about 15 years, and they were very, 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 you know, Burmese, and we, we had that Asian upbringing. We ate. I mean, I ate rice every day for like for most of my childhood life. Um, and they always had people over the house that like extended Asian family members that I never knew, that I didn't know until like every week it'd be a new like distant cousin. Like, oh yeah, this is cousin Michael. Like, oh right, okay, but like come on. And then like I remember once my grandmother, she had 10 Buddhist monks stay with her at the house, and she was cooking for them. And they were like fully like longy orange robe monks. Like, yeah, it was a
wow,
fucking crazy experience growing up, really. But yeah, like, and then I had all that, and I grew up with that. And then when I got to, I think it was like secondary school, when you're a teenager, and people were like, "No, you're white." Like, "Oh, okay, fine." I
yeah,
even had it, mate. I even had it. And I when we agreed when we talked about doing this podcast, and I was like, I'm looking forward to it. This weekend, I was out in Dalston, near where I live,
yeah,
and this is the thing that's shocking. I was at Dalston Superstore, which is an LGBTQ sort of queer bar.
yeah.
Okay, and it's like, super inclusive. And I was speaking to a girl there, and she was Palestinian, and she was training to be a doctor. Really lovely girl. Until she was like, "Oh, you obviously you're white," and I was like, "Oh, I'm not white." And then she was like, "No, you are." I was like, "Okay," and she just got funny with me, and then like walked off, and I was like, "Okay, that's like even there." I was like, "I'm going to remember this because I'm going to talk about it on the podcast."
Yeah.
But I was
This
like,
is so, there's another guest that's I've been talking about coming on, and I was
mm,
talking to them today, and they were saying they were nervous about coming on because they don't feel like they can say they're mixed race, and this is exactly,
mm,
and they are very white passing, and
mm,
this is exactly how my initial post that I did about this
yeah,
is that I don't say it. I don't say, "Oh, I'm mixed
I don't,
race." I
I
say, "Oh,
don't,
my dad's from Egypt."
yeah,
Sometimes, but I don't say that I'm mixed race, and I think it's really interesting. Like, why don't I say that?
yeah,
And it really what I'm craving is, to get a script in my inbox that
yeah,
says the character is mixed race, and that's
yeah.
it. You
Yeah,
know,
of
and
course.
I've had
Yeah.
it once, like once in 12 years of doing this professionally.
Mm.
I had a script. I got sent a script by some writers, and the lead character was half Egyptian and half American, and I was like, "Wow,
I'm in.
I'm in.
This is my people.
That's the one." And
Yeah,
I do think it's like, and look, I want to sort of preface and say that I'm not complaining. Like, I've been very
sure.
fortunate with the roles I've been given, but
Yeah, yeah,
over the years. But I would, I want to see that mixed race representation on the screen,
me
on the
too.
script.
Yeah, I can that completely resonates with me in that I've often felt that I didn't really fit in anywhere in terms of like I was when I was for instance at school hanging around with a lot predominantly white friends who I just felt like I didn't quite fit in with the points of reference that they had and the way the way that they were brought up. And then the on the Asian side, I feel that again I didn't fit in with with my Asian friends and their experiences as being Asian, and I think that has completely translated over to acting. I think obviously it's like I think of it as a benefit now because I'm embracing who I am, and yeah, who I am is a strength. But I think yeah, I remember I did a commercial for Mercedes, and the director Marcus, who actually liked on social media the post that you did,
Good man.
he said to me, he was like, you're mixed race, aren't you? I was like, yeah, yeah. And he said, I'm not sure how I feel about it now, but at the time, I mean, it's a positive. But he said the good thing about you is, and I think that this is why you're perfect for this job, is you look like you can live on any city on earth. And I was like,
Hmm.
oh, okay, cool. And obviously that's a positive, and I think that is true for a lot of people that are mixed race, in that we
I
look,
would agree. Yeah.
yeah, we look like we kind of fit in, That's a
Yeah.
positive. But on the flip side of that, whenever again, every role that I've ever gone up for, they'd like, I'm sure, look, and again, there's a lot of mixed race actors that are working, right, all the time. But the characters they play, it's rare that a character that is written as mixed race. It's just that it's more it's coincidental, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah, which is crazy because there's so many mixed race people now.
so many,
You know,
so
there's so
many.
many, and I want to, I really want to try and sort of be I want this podcast to be like a little beacon of actors and filmmakers who are mixed race, who
Yeah.
maybe we can make some work together. Like maybe we can
Sure.
write these stories, because
Mm.
I realize that a lot of these conversations that I have between my mixed race friends, like I don't see them out there. I don't see people talking about.
Mm.
They're just sort of behind closed doors, and I was like, right, let's get these conversations out there.
We're both jobbing actors, right? So we're not at a position where, we're getting offered parts without auditioning. We're auditioning actors. It might happen to you. It certainly doesn't happen to me. So I think I have to take any job that's offered to me, and if the part is offered to me, for instance, I've auditioned recently for an Indonesian character. I'm not Indonesian, and I don't really necessarily look Indonesian, and I felt awkward during the audition. But my agent was like, "Look, they've seen a photo of you. They know who you are. Uh, let's give them a good tape." And I
Yeah,
just ended up doing,
yeah.
the work.
So,
Um,
what would you say your favorite industry experience is that you've had as a
oh
mixed
man,
race actor specifically?
yeah. Well, I mean, the only one really that I've had where I got to, and I'm sure they won't mind me saying it. I got on the Witcher. I got to set, and it was the
You can't say
first
that.
time.
You can't say that.
Yeah. Oh my
NDA.
God. Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
arrived on set, and yeah, I had a lovely experience. The people, the cast and the crew were lovely, but the cast especially, Cassie and Safia, who are ethnically in ethnic minorities,
Yeah.
um, it was the first time I'd ever really felt included and seen as someone of a different ethnic background. And they were like, no, yeah, yeah, you understand because you're Burmese. And I was just like, the first time I was like, oh, right, okay,
That's
I am.
wicked.
And they were just fucking amazing.
Yeah. That's
And
wicked.
yeah, and it was the first time I really felt, oh, okay, yeah, I am then. And like, because I just basically just been gaslighting myself, like, be like, no, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't fuss about it. I don't want, do you know what I mean? I'll just be quiet and sort of and get
Yeah.
on with it. But then, like, I've experienced, it's difficult, isn't it? Because like I'm sure you and I both experienced racism, but it's not as overt as I'm sure a lot of people will experience racism. Like for me, it's being
Yeah.
told you no, you're not Burmese, you're not Asian. It's being told like, or people just be racist to Asian people in front of me because they think that I'm not.
Yeah.
I've had that so many times where I've been like,
Ooh, what do you say?
just actually, I just for years I said nothing, just be quiet, for an easy life.
Yeah.
You just like, yeah, just be quiet. And now, obviously, I like would say I've called them out on it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I've definitely had that happen to me with Muslim people.
I really,
Yeah, like, and especially, especially when there was a lot, when it was, the war in Iraq and all that,
yeah,
that time when there was a lot of fear around
Yeah.
the faith. What's something that you would love to change about
But
the industry, like with in regards to the situations that you find yourself in?
I mean, I think that just a bit more. The industry is a funny one, really, in that like it's so progressive on so many different levels, and yet we are still really quite limited with, for instance, casting breakdowns and stuff like that. It's like we just need to say, like they want diversity, but I feel that diversity is the wrong word. I think it should be representation. Diversity for
Mm.
the sake of diversity, I feel is silly. And I've seen on so many casting breakdowns that they want they used to use the word BAME, if you remember. I don't think
Yeah.
but I remember seeing casting breakdowns with BAME actors only, which I feel is like, well, I understand it's definitely a positive, but what's the point? Like, I would rather there be better stories that required a mixed race, like we talked about just a minute ago. Like, if we're gonna hire a mixed race actor, then let's maybe write it into the story because there's things that I've experienced that you would experience, anyone that's mixed race experience, and that we've got our foot on two, we got our foot in two different boats, and it
Mm.
can be difficult to sort of decide which one to, well, or impossible to decide which one to jump into.
Yeah,
I,
and there's also like a power. I find it, as an actor, like there's a power in like the uniqueness and
yeah,
the kind of mystery of like where are they from.
yeah,
There's like a power in that as well as an actor. Which
yeah,
we see in someone like Oscar Isaac.
of course.
You're like, where's he from?
Keanu
And
Reeves.
Keanu Reeves exactly.
Mm.
Exactly, like Keanu Reeves is somebody who I don't think, because he's Hawaiian, right? Or is he half Hawaiian?
I think he's Hawaiian and he's got Chinese heritage as
Yeah,
well.
but it never
Yeah,
comes up with him. I
not
don't.
really.
Yeah, it doesn't really come up. He should
Different
come
era.
on. He should come on the
Get him on.
podcast.
Get Keanu on.
I
How
bet.
like it
I
can't be that
bet.
difficult.
I bet he would do it.
I think
Like
yeah,
if
Keanu would do it.
I think if he knew about it, he would do it.
Yeah. Just get
Um,
how do we get in touch with Keanu
well, I know he
quickly?
rides motorbikes, so maybe I need to join maybe I need to become a
Just want to infiltrate a motorcycle gang.
infiltrate a motorcycle gang.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Um,
yeah. There's look. There's I think it's one of those things which is it's quite difficult to articulate my thoughts on it really because on one hand I'm really proud of my mixed heritage. I'm really like I'm proud to be a British person. I'm proud to be, as I said, a Londoner. I'm proud to be English, but I'm also massively proud to be, a child of an immigrant parent, and one that had completely different lifestyle and upbringing. Then that has been impacted on me. I grew up um in sort of a very typical sort of Asian father household in that he ruled the roost. And I came to acting late. I started acting at 28, mainly because when I when I was 18, I wanted to be in performance and all that sort of stuff. But my mom and dad shut it down. They were like, no, well, get a something that's gonna properly pay the bills. Mainly as well, I think that come from the Asian side, particularly my grandparents. I call them Papa and Nai. Nai is Burmese for grandmother, and Papa is obviously French for, but it just sounds nice with Nai.
yeah, it's
So
lovely.
Papa, yeah, Papa and Nana, Papa was, they both worked. They didn't ever, they came to the country with nothing and they'd never claimed benefits because they were so proud. It was that sort of level of individual. So that my dad had that upbringing and that sort of strict, sort of rigid, way to live your life. And then that sort of impacted on me. And then it took me till, yeah, I was 28. I'd been working in tech, the glamorous industry of tech, to decide I need to do this, other I'm going to have a mental breakdown, and
You,
I
you
did.
read you read those signs in COVID that were like retrain. Do you remember those
Yeah,
signs? Retrain
yeah.
in tech, but you were like retrain in
As an
acting.
actor, that's where the money is.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Rishi, thank you very much. I'm going to
yeah.
retrain in the industry. Yeah, get out of tech.
Yeah, tech.
So yeah, yeah, I did that, and it was my mum and dad took it. They were a bit concerned, and then it was only until they saw me work, and they were like, "You're good." you're not an idiot.
Yeah, that's
And
cool,
well
man.
done. But and then my grandmother, she lived long enough to see a bit of my work, which was lovely.
That's
But
nice.
I would love to talk. I like again if I ever get more success as an actor, it being the Burmese side is something I really want to talk about because it is massively important to me, particularly as you get older.
Yep.
Mainly Burma right now is in a really awful state in that the military have taken over. There was a coup in 2020, another coup in 2020, and they're literally killing civilians, and it's a shit show.
Mm.
Um, and it's a military junta dictatorship. So any attention I can get on that through acting and also since embracing I'm putting up my Instagram that I'm sort of Anglo-Burmese. There's a small Burmese community in the UK of mostly immigrants, and they're all they do sort of look out for each other. Like I'm friends with the two girls that they're called the Rangoon sisters on Instagram. They're doctors, but they're also chefs. They ran a supper club. They now have a
Yeah,
cookbook.
I've heard of them.
They're awesome.
Yeah.
They're really cool. So I think I like being part of that community. That's something that I really love. But I know, yeah, like I feel that every mixed race actor has had, you know, either complete overt racism, like for instance Anya, she plays Yennefer in The Witcher. She's half. I think her mother is English, her father is Indian.
Yeah.
She,
Yes.
she said she had people telling a racist message when she got cast as Yennefer. People just were just awful.
This is Anya Chalotra.
Jalotri, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so she's mixed race, but I think she looks way more Asian than, for instance, I do. But we have, I
Yeah.
mean, with him in terms of she would have had the similar sort of upbringing
Yeah.
as I did.
Just
I
quickly,
understand.
with you talking about Burma, if there are any, if there are any charities or any organizations, just let me know and I'll put them in the
Yeah, I
description
will, of course. Yeah, I've got a
of
few. Yeah.
this episode.
Yeah.
Okay, so are there any difficulties that you feel like you faced that you feel personally you've overcome, or you've seen be overcome?
Oh man. So I mean, in terms of acting, I'm sure you've had this as well. You get a casting breakdown for a let's say an Arabic character or like for instance me, an Asian character. And this pre-COVID, right? So you're in the room. And I remember being in a room in a room full of for an Asian role, going into the room and it was me and like eight other dudes in the waiting room who were all very obviously Asian. And I sort of sit there just sort of like, oh God. And like the reality is they're probably not even looking at me. The reality is they're probably focusing on the job they've got to do in their scene. But you know how everyone feels that eyes are on them. That's guilty of that. So I'm just sitting there like everyone's looking at me. That they think that I'm like I shouldn't be here. This isn't for me. And I just like and you just freak yourself out. And then you get called in. You go in and you do the work, and hopefully, hopefully it's good enough. But I've had issues of self doubt. Am I right for this? Is probably not. I'm probably not right for this. And some of that is accurate, right? I'm probably not right to play someone that's an out and out Asian character. But I understand why they would see me. I understand that, like, I think probably, yeah, I understand why I'd see me. One thing also, another struggle I would say that I have overcome is I have learned how to do a Asian accent, or a Burmese accent, like an authentic Burmese sort of
Wow, that's cool.
English Burmese accent, and um, I think that would probably help with voice acting. I think
Mm.
that if I were to get cast in as a Burmese character, I could play that voice wise because that's what we look like, and that is my heritage. Um, I think that's a good thing, I guess. But yeah, other than that, I think the struggles I have are just feeling like I don't fit in, and it seems a silly thing to say because I'm sure that a lot of people have harder struggles with their ethnicity and or
Hmm.
whatever. But every problem is relative. I'm doing it again. See, I'm gaslighting. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, well, my problem's not enough of a problem. Do you see what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
This is why we're talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So okay, so So do you think The Witch is the your favorite project that you worked on?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the biggest project I've worked on, and I was on it for 9 weeks, and it was fucking awesome. And yeah, like every single person on that job are like amazing. A lot of them are my really good friends now. We've kept in touch. Everyone was just like so fucking lovely. And when I got to set, like it was again first proper TV job really. And I was so surprised that there were no bastards on a film set. Because when you grow up in sort of the 90s, you're like, well, people on movie sets, they're definitely arseholes, aren't they? Like, there's definitely some rock. It's like this rock. There's probably loads of cocaine everywhere. Do you know what I mean? But then when you get to set, it's like, oh no, everyone's super professional and really lovely. And I was speaking to my friend Dickie about it, and he was like, yeah, like the era of big ego dickheads is sort of over. You kind of can't be like that anymore unless you don't want to work again. And I think that obviously
Yeah,
there's the big dogs that are like, the movie stars of the world that probably do get away with being pushing it, But
some
that's
of
just not
them,
in my, yeah, that's
some
just
of
not in my
them.
heart.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked on a lot of sets, and I've
You
only
have.
it's been rare that I've come across someone who I've been like, I'm not sure about you.
Yeah.
Most, if not all, people are really lovely and sweethearts, and they're in that position for a reason.
Yeah.
They're working for a reason. They're number one on the call sheet for a reason.
Because I didn't get there first, Adam. That's why they're there. Because I didn't get there first.
Okay, so segueing off this,
Sure.
who is someone who has inspired you? Who inspires you? And it doesn't have to be through the mixed race lens, but is there, are there actors out there, or just people that inspire you to do what you do?
Man, I mean, it's a multifaceted question. I think as an actor, there's been plenty and plenty and plenty of people that have inspired me. Rick Mail was like one of my absolute heroes, someone that I really, really um, found entertaining as a child, and then as I've gotten older, I've sort of understood how fantastic a performer he was and how unique
Mm,
he was. And it's something that I definitely have taken inspiration from rightly or wrongly into my performances. Obviously, Keanu Reeves is a huge one. Again, someone that was mixed race that I fully looked up to. Oliver Reed, I love Oliver Reed, but I think that the main big one for me was Brandon Lee, because I saw him in The Crow, and my dad and I were always massive fans of Bruce Lee and Hong Kong cinema, particularly like Kung Fu Hong Kong cinema. And when I remember my dad when he was like, I guess he would have been in his 30s. Mad now to think about it, but I was a young kid and he had his hair cut like Bruce Lee because we just ended up watching loads of Bruce Lee movies, and I sort of at the time like idolized my dad as this Asian man who looked like Bruce Lee because I was a huge fan of Bruce Lee. And then I watched The Crow years later, and I didn't know that the Brandon Lee was Bruce Lee's son until
mm,
after I'd watched it, and it was amazing because it was like, oh, that's a man that's mixed race that looks like me and that doesn't look obviously Asian. He like presented almost as Caucasian with dark features and the cheekbones of someone that's Asian, and he was just like my absolute hero. And that movie was the soundtrack is that sort of 90s grungy thing which we both fucking love. And I loved that movie, and I was a bit of a goth kid, so I really that the Crow, the darkness, and all that stuff really resonated with me, and it made me think as a kid I could do this. This is what I want to do, and it was the first time I really ever felt like that. And that, yeah, Brandon Lee's, and obviously so tragic, like so tragic.
yeah, it's such a good film.
Yeah, man.
And
Yeah.
I mean, like it's both Bruce and Brandon. What happened to them is really tragic.
I know. I feel obviously they have a like his mother, Bruce's wife, is still alive, and
Mm,
like for a mother to go through both the loss of her husband at a young age and then her son at a young age,
yeah,
they're both in their 30s, is horrendous.
yeah.
Um,
But that's a cool answer, man. That's very cool.
yeah, I mean, I love it. If you've ever read it, it's an amazing book, and I'll explain why. So the guy that wrote it, James O'Barr, he wrote it over a period of about 10, 15 years. as a project to get over the grief of having lost the love of his life. His girlfriend at the time got killed by a drunk driver,
Mm.
and he was late to pick her up. So
Right.
and she walked or something along those. I think he basically he took responsibility
He
for it.
blamed
He was like, if
himself. Yeah.
I'd have been there earlier, she wouldn't have been dead. And he took 10 years to write this comic book about an avenging angel, basically, as a form of catharsis. And in the book, there are scenes of Eric and Shelley, the characters in the book, hanging out together, and they're lifted literally verbatim from James O'Barr's life with his girlfriend. They're
Wow.
right. So the whole book is like drenched in pathos, and um, it's so sad. And then obviously when the film got made in 1994 with Alex Proyas directing, James O'Barr sat in on the casting process when with Brandon Lee joined the project. Him and James became very, very good friends, really good friends, and to the point that James said that Brandon is Eric Draven, and like that's the portrayal of it. Then obviously what happened on that set, and just to go over it, Brandon lost his life. They were I think they were 8 weeks into a 9 week shoot, and on the ninth week they had a week left of shooting. There's a scene where he gets shot from behind by a gun, and the prop master on the movie hadn't for whatever reason hadn't checked the gun properly, I think, and there was what they call a squib load in the barrel of the gun, which is a small piece of metal. They were blank firing guns, so when the gun discharged, the piece of metal shot out and embedded itself in Brandon's spine, and he collapsed. He got taken to hospital and died just a couple of hours later. And like initially, Alex Proyas was like, "I'm done. I'm not going. The film's over. We're not going to finish it." And then the family members and James, who had seen the movie, said, "You have to finish it. It's so he's so good in it. He's so good in it." And it would have been
Mm.
Brandon's big thing. It would have made him a megastar.
Hmm.
They went back and filmed it and edited the movie to incorporate the death. So probably like kind of grotesquely made it a better movie.
Yeah.
The movie came out and for years and years, and it's again it is what it is, but for years and years and years James O'Barr said no one's touching that again, and because the remake has been in production for about I think about 15 years with loads of
Mm.
different. I think Jason Momoa was attached to play it at some point,
That makes
which
sense.
is yeah, right. So and every single time James has been interviewed, he's like, no, I don't want it to be touched. Alex Proyas, the director, has said it shouldn't be touched because it's more than just a movie. It's sort of Brandon Lee's legacy. It's the last thing that he ever worked on. And I think like I understand like movies at the moment, particularly at the moment, and production companies are very risk averse. They don't want to take any risks on anything that isn't, and then I guess an already established IP. I guess The Crow is already established IP.
Mm.
But I think if someone loses their life on something like that, and they were friends with the author, and the author's written the book to deal with like someone killing his girlfriend in a drunk driving incident, why touch that? Leave that alone for at least 100 years. Do you know what I mean? Like just leave
Yeah.
it alone. It doesn't need to be remade. And the thing that wound me up was when I watched the trailer for the new one. And look, again, it's not for me. I'm not going to watch it just for principal reasons. But when I watched trailer, like the two characters, Eric and Shelley, they meet in rehab, and it's like the movie, the comic was sort of written around a drunk driving, and James O'Barr has been famously really anti-drugs. The
Mm.
drug takers in the movie themselves, in the original movie, are like sort of these grotesque characters. Fun boy, he does loads of heroin.
Mm.
I just feel that they've missed the tone, and they've made it an action movie. And the original movie is not. It is an action movie, but it's kind of more of like a grungy thriller. And the way that the Brandon plays Eric Draven is so sad, and like he's so like broken and hurt in every scene, and it's just I think it's a really really underrated and fantastic performance.
Mm. It
Yeah,
is. It's brilliant. I must watch it again actually because it's been a
you
while.
should. Yeah, watch it again. It's one of those movies
Yeah.
that's just like you forget how good it is, and they use I think the sets that they use for it are just like they're all built, whereas I
Mm.
guess nowadays it would be green screen. It's weird.
I mean, there's that thing about practical effects that's just so good.
Yeah, I love it.
You know,
Yeah, yeah. I love that shit.
like the thing.
Yeah, yeah. The things are made. Imagine as
It's
well. I think it makes your job so much easier as an actor if you're literally like, you're literally.
like, oh my god, what is that grotesque model that's like
Yeah,
wiggling towards me?
yeah.
Um,
I watched Master and Commander the other day as well, and it's just like it's so obvious that they're actually on a massive ship in a tank, like having a miserable time getting pelted with water. It's like,
yeah,
oh, yeah, you can tell it looks amazing.
yeah, it's awesome. So, what do you want your legacy to be, or your impact as an actor? Because I think that
Honestly,
I honestly, because I think there always needs to be a why.
I think my legacy in terms of man, it's so difficult. It changes on depending on what week you catch me, right? So I think ultimately my main thing is I've started to understand that the pursuit of a creative endeavor has to be enough. I think like if I would go like the ultimate goal for me is just to make a living out of doing this. That's it. Make a living just out of acting. Don't have to worry about doing other jobs and stuff like that. So I think I'm pretty close to doing that, right? It's pretty achievable.
Yeah,
Um,
because you
I
love
think
it.
because I love it. Yeah, and I won't do like this is the thing. My superpower is I'm never going to quit doing this. I'm never
Mm,
going to stop doing this because it's something that I genuinely. It sounds depressing, but it's like acting is the only thing that really makes me happy. And that sounds depressing, but it isn't. I just found the thing that I'm good at, and I want to be a really really good actor. I don't want to
mm.
be because if I try anything else, I'll just be another half-assed whatever the job is, right? And
Yeah,
the world
uh,
doesn't need another one of those. I think that like I'm good at this. I want to do this. I
yeah.
think my legacy in terms of this is why I want to talk about being Burmese or being my heritage being Burmese because if I ever get success and I can sing and talk about it, then I particularly because the people in Burma are so fucking oppressed. I want people to look at me and be like, "That's inspiring. I want to do that." If I can inspire one other kid that is mixed race, doesn't even have to be Burmese, but just a mixed race kid that looks like me or whatever, and they're like, "Do you know what? I can do that." Then that's a good enough legacy for me. I don't need to win an Oscar. I don't need to like be great.
That's brilliant, man.
Wouldn't show up though.
And it's true. It works because you know, like Rami Malek is Egyptian.
Yeah,
But he's, in a sense, he's kind of like I feel quite close to him because he's just very American, right? Like,
yeah.
he's kind of, he doesn't do work in Egypt. He was born in California, I think.
Okay.
He's
Is he
American,
fully Egyptian?
fully Egyptian.
Oh, cool.
And when he started to pop off, it really kind of made me go, oh wow, like I could really do
Cool.
this. I could do this. And I walked into him once. He was on the Strand, and he was just looking at his phone. And I just was like, hey, can I just shake your hand? I'm Egyptian. You really inspire me. And he was like, well, thanks, man. That's really nice. And he
Hey. Cool. Well,
he gave me this like big bro hug, and it was so sweet. But it's like these people are important, even if it's just one guy.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Um,
And I think like being told that as an actor by someone that's also being inspired by you is like I think that's like the greatest thing ever. And I've said this many times to my mate Matt, my co-host Matt on the podcast, that
yeah,
we've written together for many years, and he said one of the greatest things that can happen, really, the ultimate, the pinnacle for me, is someone coming up to me in the street and being like, "I really, really like your work. It inspired me." That's it.
yep,
Doesn't need to be hordes and crowds of people. I think what I think I'm not gonna ever have that. I think I'm probably gonna have a few niche people that like I kind of get what you're doing, and like if those people get it, then great. If I can inspire a small few people, then I
yeah,
think then the job is worth doing.
yeah. So two things. So firstly, tell me about your podcast, and
Sure.
second, what do you have going on at the moment?
Okay, cool. So podcast was sort of born out of the pandemic. Matt and I sort of sitting around with nothing to do. So Matt Bentley and I, we've written together for many years. We've written a TV show that we'd sort of gone in and out of production. Movie. We've kind of I actually currently actively writing a another TV show. Matt's sort of taking the lead with that one and bouncing ideas off me. So that's his baby. But yeah, we kind of the pandemic hit. All the writing that we had been doing up until that point sort of just took a back seat, and we were like, what the fuck are we gonna do? And it was at the time where it was right before like the rise of the far right sort of tech broy podcaster, right? But it was around the time where, I mean, like Rogan was still obviously a thing, and it was just like, and there's a few people that fired up a podcast, and we were like, well, you can do this, and then it was almost like we're going to do it, but we're going to be the anti-podcast, and we're going to sort of take the piss out of that sort of element of podcasting, and that sort of like that tech broy sort of like body hacking, biohacking, I think it's called.
Yeah.
So we started it called The Lack of Focus because we didn't know what to call it. What we'd do is we'd sit down with a camera on us for an hour and just improvise, sort of in character as these sort of heightened versions of ourselves, and we would say very silly things. We've been doing that. I think we're on episode like 28 now. But we recently, at the beginning of the end of last year, we decided let's do it properly. We'll get a proper studio and we'll do it on a weekly basis. And it's mainly just for us. And I think as actors, unless you're very, very lucky, it's rare that you get enough. It's rare that you get a lot of time performing uninterrupted on a regular basis, right? So like, unless you're getting a lot of self tapes and you're getting auditions, which is great, you know. But at the moment, we're in a position where the industry is sort of a bit reduced at the moment, right? So I think for Matt and I think having an hour where we improvise a week is super, super relevant, because what you don't want is to be out of work for a year, then you book a job, then you're on set and you're fucking acting opposite Ewan McGregor and you've got a camera in your face and you're feeling self-conscious. That's like, I don't ever want to get to that stage. So doing stuff like this, doing the podcast helps that.
That's really cool. So it's kind of like you're sharpening the saw every week. You're keeping yourself in training.
Just a bit, a bit. And you can do that.
I didn't realize you guys were in character. I thought you guys were just really obnoxious, and when you got together. I'm kidding. But it's funny
great. Actually you say that.
Well, it's so funny because like seeing that. Sorry, the pulp, is it Pulp Kitchen? You were on
Pulp Kitchen. They invited us on.
Seeing it in that format, it's almost like brilliant performance art, because you. But also, it was really interesting because one of the top comments on your criticism of Poor Things was something like tell me there's a white man here without telling me there's a white man, and you respond, and like maybe the second most liked comment was your reply, which is I'm not white.
I'm not white. And watching them shit themselves after that, it was so funny.
It was quite satisfying.
Yeah, it does sort of tie into this, but yeah, I think with what Matt and I are doing, it's obviously we're doing a bit in a lot of what we're doing, but we're doing it mainly for us. Like, no one really watches our show. It's just, again, it's sort of sharpening the iron. And you could do that. I think I know a lot of actors. My friend Orlando, he goes to Go Hub, right? He does a weekly class where he's doing scene work. That's a similar sort of thing, I think. It's just we happen to, and the reason we do it is because when we were writing together, are the characters that we. You've read the script, right? For the sitcom we wrote called The Truth Doesn't Rhyme.
Yes.
Two main are sort of dickhead writers, and a lot of the scenes are them being interviewed, and they think they're being very grandiose and ridiculous. And the way we wrote those scenes was we sat with a camera on us, and we improvised in character. And I remember we sent it to our producers, just as a proof of concept, and they were like, oh, they didn't realize we were in character. They just were like, oh yeah, it's like a podcast. And I was like, no, this is this is what we've written. Guys, and then it was almost like, yeah, great, thanks. That's a really, really that's a really big compliment, because you think my performance is so good.
Yeah,
I was just natural, but also it was just like, oh fuck? Like, and then actually, funny enough, when we got invited on the Pulp Kitchen podcast, they said to us before we did the interviews, they were like, we watched The Lack of Focus, and they were like, it took us like 5 minutes to realize that you didn't mean the things you're saying and it's in character. And I was like, well, firstly, that's a relief because number one, it took them 5 minutes, which means that's a perfect amount of time. And number two, it didn't take any longer than that
Yeah.
because 45 minutes of us waffling and they just think we're idiots. But yeah, that podcast was yeah. If you ever want to be eviscerated online, just have a strong opinion on any movie, and you will be taken apart.
That is so true.
Yeah,
That is so
yeah.
true.
People like stand stuff, don't they?
What have you got going on at the moment?
So what going on? I've actually I'm in series 3 of Industry that's coming out in or
Great.
it just got announced August 11th. I don't know what episode I'm in. I'm barely in it to be honest, but I had a really cool time shooting that with because my scene is with Mayala, who is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just like a couple of days shooting in Cardiff, which was fun. I'm also in an episode of Casualty. Again, don't know when it's coming out, but I filmed that in
Ooh.
January.
What happens to you?
I play I'm the husband of a patient. Played by
Oh, okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Nothing happens to you.
Yeah. But I go in and basically I'm anti-vax and a vegan,
Great.
and hijinks ensue. I won't spoil it, but yeah, I'm in that. I think I don't know when I'm in that, but I know my auntie's gonna call me and be like, "I just seen you on Casualty."
Yes.
Loves it.
That is a very
But they,
auntie show.
they did just win a BAFTA, so like, do you know what I mean? Casualty, well done.
Well, there you go. Congrats, Casualty.
Yeah,
All right. So, my final question to you, Harvey
go for
Quinn.
it.
So that Burmese kid, what words of inspiration do you have to anyone who think who you think could look up to you?
Oh man, that's a hard one. I mean, I think just don't overthink it and get and just pull the trigger. I think it's so tough to answer that question. I think the thing that prevented me from doing it was just fear, and no one can ever tell. No one can really. I would just say don't listen to anyone. Really, I think you're gonna get loads of people telling you that it's a stupid idea to pursue a dream of yours. You're gonna get told by people, oh, it's just not realistic. You're never gonna do it. You know, like the amount of people that like when I started, when I was like, I want to do acting. The amount of people were like, oh, but you've not done it before. And I was like, okay, like what, like, but dreams do come true, man. Like a prime example. I got made redundant for my job in I think 2016. It was because I worked for a German company referendum, right? And I had a choice at that point to like get another job, and I had interviews lined up, or I could be like, do you know what? Let's actually just now's the time to do something that I'm really passionate about. And I had a 6 month period where my I lived in Brixton at the time. My tenancy was running out rapidly, and I lived with my friend Chris, who I'm still really really good friends with, and I didn't know. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and all I did was play The Witcher 3 on PC, thinking the whole time like it would be fucking awesome if this is ever adapted to be in this. And like then I achieved that, and I was just like, and I didn't. It didn't really ever sink in until afterwards, and the showrunner Lauren was chatting to me, and we were talking about the game, and she was like, and I told her basically that story, and she was like, "Fucking hell!" She was like, "Yeah,
That's so
that,
cool, man.
that's a fucking cool story." I was like, "Yeah, I guess they do come true." So like, don't listen to anyone that tells you that like things can't happen because things can just happen. And I'm not sure if I believe in like manifesting things, but I think putting yourself in the running. I think most of the job is turning up, and like
Yeah.
like turning up for yourself every day. Like every day you wake up, like what can I do for myself today? I need to turn up in some fashion. Like, and it could be like sending an email to like a to an acting school and be like, look, I've never done this before, but like, when are you holding
Yeah.
audition? And it could be anything. It could be just emailing a fucking producer that of a movie that you like. Like, by the way, I really like your work. I would love to work with you. Do you know what I mean? There aren't any rules. I think just yeah, just don't listen to anyone telling you no.
Absolutely. I mean, I find the whole like, you know, but you've never acted before, that kind of thing, or you know,
Mm.
it's such a dream. It's such a kind of hilarious
Yeah,
because all these people go home and turn the TV on every night and they watch loads of people who followed that dream, and I'm like, how? What
yeah,
evidence do you need? What more evidence do you need?
yeah,
Like you watch Netflix every day. These are all people that followed that dream,
yeah.
and you know are getting paid to do what they love, and I think there's so much evidence out there that it
For sure,
works.
for
And I
sure.
think, you know, you're right about writing, you know, like just putting yourself out there. Like I heard this new film that Josh O'Connor's done that's set in Italy. He really wanted to work with the director, so he just sent a letter like with her name and it just like Italy as the
Crazy.
address. Like you know, he just kind of
What?
like yeah, but like I don't think
That's cool.
she never got it, but he kind of sent that out. And then he sent another one that said like Umbria, and just
That's
sent that
cool.
out into the universe. And then he just met her at a festival.
Yeah. Also,
Like
don't ever be afraid to ask for help. Like
yeah,
my friend Jack Parr. He's a really good friend of mine. We've met working like, as waiters in events. He's a really great actor now. He's in a movie called The Last Breath that's coming out, which is Julian Sands' last movie.
oh
But
wow, cool.
Jack plays the lead, and the amount of times where he's got meetings with people or like he's one of those actors that's just says yes to everything. He's
Mm,
excited to work. He just is not afraid to email and ask questions. He'll email like a director or a producer and be like, no, I see you're working on this. Is there any way you can get me an audition? Or like he's just relentless with it. And it's not he gets away with it because he's the most charming man on earth. But like he's not afraid of looking stupid. And he'll just put himself out there and things happen for him because
yeah,
I think number one, he's infectiously optimistic,
yeah.
which I think is a massive trait. And anyone that's doing well that I know, it's because they have that. Things are going to be all right. You know what?
Hmm.
Let's just work the problems out, and we'll get it done. And you just want to be around people like that. So
Absolutely,
I think that's really important.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, Harvey, thanks so much.
Thank you for inviting me. This is absolutely awesome. I'm going to be watching all of these as you do them because I think this is a really cool niche idea as well. I think, and again, like you said at the beginning, like I've not really seen um sort of mixed race or mixed ethnicities and people from that background have this sort of conversation, be it in the acting world or in the any industry really.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Mixed Call Sheet. There are actually some really good other alternatives to this podcast, including the Mixed Up podcast and Mixed Messages, the newsletter by Izzy. So go and check those out. This podcast is specifically for actors and filmmakers and sort of more in the entertainment industry. Thank you so much to Harvey Quinn for coming on the show. I'm going to be dropping links to the Burma charities and organizations on the Instagram post. You can find that at Mixed Call Sheet Pod.